We have had this car for 3 years now, and that has flown by. How much has this car cost in those 3 years? I've done a video on the 6-month costs, the 12 months costs, didn't do 24, don't know why, don't ask me that. But let's take a look at the 3-year costs of owning, running and maintaining this car. And hopefully, if you're in the market for one of these, umming and ahhing about what it's going to cost, hopefully it will go some way into explaining for you what it's actually like. Let's go for a drive. So a quick recap for anyone who hasn't watched my previous cost of ownership videos, and I'm going to ask why have you not? Go and check them out. But a quick recap if you haven't seen those. We finished the 12-month mark of ownership of this car at £11,857.53, I believe. I'll pop it down the bottom, make sure I'm giving you the correct figure there. So that was the 12-month mark. Now in there was some unnecessary stuff. We did some upgrades to the screen, we bought number plates, we had to put tyres on, personal plates that is. So there was some unnecessary cost in there. And what has happened since that 12-month mark is we've got the car to a point that we're quite happy with how it is. It's maintained well, there's nothing wrong with it. We've tidied up those bits we wanted to, modified it how we wanted to. So for that reason, the cost has plateaued slightly. But anyway, let's go over what the last 2 years has entailed. As in all of my cost of ownership videos, we've got the price of insurance. Now, for the year, the insurance in this is around the £1,200 mark. I'll put the exact figure in there, and I've done a whole video on Jaguar F-Type insurance, so I'm not going to do that to death here. Go and check out that video if you want to know more. But the insurance in this car, priced down the bottom of the screen there, that's 1 year's insurance. You need road tax to go alongside your insurance in the UK, or vehicle excise duty, whatever you want to call it. And a year's vehicle excise duty in this car has just gone up, but it hadn't during the previous 24-month period. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to include it at the old rate. I'll add that to the total down the bottom of the screen there. But in short, it's gone up to about £735 from April onwards. So quite expensive, quite a jump. However, the previous 2 years were at the old rate. So factor that forwards if you're looking for this car. And then servicing. So we're quite lucky, we had quite a cheap service last time round. It was only oil and filter. And it was only £287 for that service, which is a ludicrous amount of money for oil and filter. It's probably £80 in parts, hours labour, but you do the maths on that. And yeah, the reason we went to Jaguar for that was to get the main dealer stamp in the book, but nonetheless it's a cost that we've incurred. It will go down the bottom there. Now in terms of any extras, any nice to haves, there haven't been any. I've done a little bit of modification. I changed the steering wheel, and if you haven't seen that video, go check that out. But I've upgraded the steering wheel. I'm not going to include that as a cost of ownership because we didn't have to get that retrimmed. I'll flash the price up down the bottom separately. I think it was about £180 to have that retrimmed. Real bargain, and it's really lifted the interior, but it's not a cost attributed to running this car. So we'll leave that out. I'll put it down for information purposes. Now, I do have a service coming up. The service light has come on, funnily enough, since I've been driving today. And that's a slightly bigger service. That includes the transmission oil, the differential oil, as well as the oils and filters, fuel filter, and the cabin filter, the air filter for the cabin. So that service I'm not going to include in the last 2 years worth, bringing us up to 36 months, but it is on the horizon. Where are we? 2 weeks away from that service happening. So it's technically not in that window. I'll include it for information like I did the steering wheel, but that's quite a big service, and I think that's about £1,100. I'll put the exact price down the bottom there. I've not yet put more tyres on. These are still the same tyres from the previous cost of ownership video. Now, they're 2 years old, there or thereabouts, and they have started perishing. The sidewalls are cracked. I've got an advisory on the MOT for them. They're not perished to a point where they are dangerous. I wouldn't be driving the car, but there are sort of like asphatic cracks to the sidewall of the tyre, so I am going to change those out fairly soon. There's still tread on them, not masses, but certainly enough for it to be comfortably over the wear markers. So I will be putting a new set of tyres on in the next sort of 3 to 4 months, ready for summer, and that's going to be a small packet again. I'll put that price down the bottom in the information only category. Outside of that, it's been pretty good. We do need to talk about fuel. Let's talk about fuel. So we've spoken about insurance, road tax, MOTs, servicing. Fuel. Let's talk about fuel. So we have done about 3,000 miles in the last year in this car. It's not been used a huge amount. We've been busy doing up a house, busy with work. Anyway, 3,000 miles at an average of 30 miles per gallon gives you this figure down the bottom here. I've used a pump price of about £1.45. That's arbitrary. Prices do this. However, based on those numbers, it gives you this price on fuel down the bottom here. Good. Right, we're back out of the cold in the warm car. We've done fuel. Now, the one that I didn't include in the previous videos, because it's very circumstantial, very, very circumstantial, based upon how much you pay for your car. Have you paid for it cash? Have you paid for it on finance? What type of finance have you got? Have you got hire purchase, HP, conditional sale, CS, PCP, personal contract purchase? The list goes on, right? But for us, we bought this on a conditional sale. There's no balloon at the end. We're just paying monthly payments. And I toyed a lot with putting this figure in because I don't ever want to come across as crude in these videos, right? This is all for information purposes. None of this is ever to show off. It's to help people who want to buy one of these and understand the costs, right? So I am going to include the finance cost of the car, because for us to have this car is a cost we've undergone to get there. We are paying £1,038 a month in finance for this car. And we're nearly at the end of that finance now, thank goodness. But it's quite a sizable packet to have come out your bank account every month for one car. But we've been paying that for 3 years for the purposes of this video. And there was also a deposit on the car as well. And the deposit was £6,000. So these are all costs attributed with owning and running this car. So I'll include those, not in the information category, but I'll put them in the actual costs, because it all gets rolled into how much money has left the bank account to fund this car. Obviously your circumstances are going to be different to mine. You might have bought your car cash, congratulations if you have. You might be looking to purchase cash, again congratulations if you are. For us, we financed, we didn't have that amount of money lying around to do so. So it's been a cost of the purchase of this car. We've had an MOT, which is a fixed price. It sailed through, had a couple of advisories in the most recent one, nothing that I need to address imminently. But even still, £55 on the MOT. It's not going to set the world on fire. That's a fixed price set by the Ministry of Transport, funnily enough, MOT test. And garages, dealerships have to abide by that cost. They are fixed. So we've had one MOT. Sorry, that's a lie. We've had 2 MOTs at £55 each since that last video went out. I don't think I'll ever get bored of the noise this car makes or the way it goes. It just goes like a stabbed rat. And that really is it. That's what we've spent running this car for the last 2 years. It's been very economical, but then we've not done a lot of miles. It's been parked up on the drive. We've done 3,000 odd miles in this. We had a couple of holidays, a couple of good holidays. But if you're dailying your car, those costs are going to go up proportionately. So all said and told, for 3 years of motoring, yeah, that's quite high. Arguably did some fairly unnecessary stuff in the first couple of years. And if you haven't seen those videos, go and check those out where I break down exactly those costs. However, from the 12-month mark to now, and I'll put a graph on the screen now sort of depicting this, you can see the costs have really sloped off where we've got on top of the car, maintained it to a point where we want it, and then it's just ticked along quite nicely. And hopefully it's gone some way in explaining to you watching this video what the costs of ownership of one of these are and how to best prepare for going and buying one. But that's it for another video. Thanks for sticking around, guys. If you're not already, do sub with that button down the bottom, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This isn't purely narcissistic, I promise. I'm trying to remind myself of how much the cost was. £11,857.53. There we go.